thing. Hi, John.
Good
And
morning. How are
then we have
you?
to move things around. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Not at all. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is your camera accessible?
Oh, I forget. As I mentioned, I haven't done this before, so I had to find it the last time, and I believe that's
There
it.
you go.
There you go. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
So I was telling my little group here,
Yes.
who, if you recall, they're all first year medical students who are now almost at the end of their course on hearts and lungs.
Okay.
I was telling them about you. Just all I've said so far is that you're 77
Correct.
and that you had or have a history of asthma and that you were a smoker
Yes.
until about age 60.
Correct.
And I did mention that you have COPD and that I'll show them the breathing tests and everything afterwards. But
Okay.
that, the one that we did probably a couple of years ago where it was around 25%
Yes.
for the FEV1. So I
Right.
thought if you want to, we were talking about when you were diagnosed and stuff, and I can't remember exactly. So maybe I'll let you take it away.
Well, you mentioned a history of asthma. I actually had asthma from age 3 to 13, and then it went away. And then I had an adult onset at about age 30. And of course, stupid as I am, at that time I was smoking, which over the years, as well as being overweight, on high blood pressure medicine, on November of 2016, I had an exaggeration and ended up in the Foothills Hospital after gas trappings for so long I didn't think I was going to make it. But it was November 2016 when I was diagnosed with COPD. And then I met you in December or January of either December 2016 or January 2017, and that's when the journey began. I got up off the gurney at Foothills and said, no, I'm not going. Because the respiratory specialist on duty that day, after my lung x rays and my breathing tests in the little glass cube or cubicle, he came back to my room after I returned and said, Mr. Anderson, everything indicates you have about 25 or 26% lung capacity, and that's unfortunate because it's not enough to sustain life. You have about 2 to 4 years life expectancy. That was a little over 4 years ago. Mainly because I made up my mind that he was wrong. You know, I think if I have to tell your class anything at all, there's things that are the most important is to assume some personal responsibility for your health and be lucky enough to find two very concerned and very dedicated physicians like I have. Have I gone away? Or can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
So what was your strategy? So you said you got that kind of startling news.
Yes.
When you were in the hospital, and you decided, nope, that's not going to be my story. So what did you do?
Number one, I was 279 pounds. So I thought that'd be a good place to start. Um, and then, of course, as far as a sedentary lifestyle, I do tax preparation and bookkeeping. I'm sitting at a computer all day long, not doing anything. So, number one, lose weight. I did that by saying, okay, um, nothing processed, nothing in a bottle or a bag, a box, or a can. If I didn't make it, I wasn't going to eat it. I didn't go keto as such. It was sort of like a modified keto, where I did a modicum of carbohydrates, fairly extensive amount of protein with a healthy amount of fat. and I went that way as opposed to the normal recommended diet. As the other thing I got away from is the normal recommended schedule. 3 meals a day is sort of like not in my daily way. I did as much of my personal research as I could, and I decided that I had to go my own way. I didn't have to follow any programs. You know, if Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig knew what they were doing, they've been in business a combined 86 years. Why is there so much obesity? So I decided I was going to do it on my own. Weight loss to begin with, 279 to start, 185 this morning. Blood pressure medicine, months and months and months ago, with my GP's permission, I did away with blood pressure medicine. I started exercising, 20, 30 minutes a day. I'm now, at my age, exercising 45 minutes a day, 6 days a week. I turned my living room into a gym. And I think I mentioned to you, I know before, that I did something that I haven't done in 63 years. I bought a bike. So it doesn't matter about the weather because I have indoor frames where I stick it up in there, and I do high intensity interval training on my bike, indoors or outdoors. And of course the diet, then the frequency changed. I started intermittent fasting. I'm now down to the 1 meal a day. I eat every 24 hours. Water, coffee, green tea, other than that, plus homemade lemonade. And then every 6 months I go off wine for a month. And then at the end of that month, I fast for 5 days. And so that's what I did and it seemed to work. As you know, every time I came to see you, I seem to have shown a bit of improvement. So I basically do a lot of talking to my body. I try to listen to it. I figure if I listen to my body, it's going to listen to me. Then, of course, December the 18th, I'm perfect for a COVID victim. I mean, absolutely perfect. My age, my race, and my pre-existing condition. On December the 18th, when I was exposed to COVID and found out the gentleman tested positive, and then when I tested positive, I figured, oh boy, 3 or 4 days, maybe. And then I decided once again. I said no. The day I found out I was positive, I took 50,000 international units of vitamin D3 with a little vitamin K2 as well to offset the calcium thing. The following morning, I took 40,000 international units of D3. The morning after that, I took 40,000. And the day after that, I went back to my normal routine, which is 20,000 international units of D3 a day. Supplements wise, in addition to watching what I ate, I supplemented my diet with vitamin D3, K2, vitamin C, zinc, and selenium. I've been doing that for 2 years, and I got through having COVID without being hospitalized.
Do you still feel any like residual symptoms now, or by any chance?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. It's a combination of the effects of the COVID and the fact that I did not exercise nor fast while I had it. So what's wrong now is I don't have the initial stamina that I had worked my way up to with the exercise. I have to ease back into exercising. I've already gotten back into my daily routine regarding eating and what I'm eating. But that's the only residual symptom is every so often I'll get a slight shortness of breath if I'm exerting myself. But that's because I didn't exercise for a month.
With your COVID, did you have symptoms just of respiratory, or what were your What was your symptom group
The
like?
biggest symptom, the most noticeable, and the one that had its biggest impact on me, opposite to what they say about COVID, you're supposed to get a fever. I had chills, unbelievable chills. I had chills like they were body raking chills for like 5 hours straight, and it was just insane. But I got through it and I got over it. But that was the primary problem during the course of my body fighting it was the chills. I didn't have any shortness of breath episodes during the course, and I didn't have a persistent dry cough. I had an occasional cough, which is more than I usually do. I don't cough much at all, but I got to an occasional cough of the day that was very phlegmy. So I started taking something to keep the phlegm loose, and I made sure that I coughed it up as opposed to anything else. And so the two major symptoms were chills and a phlegmy cough. No change in body temperature. I have a laser thermometer that was on my forehead 3 times a day, and I was in the 33 to 34 range all the time.
Before you were diagnosed with COPD, did you ever suspect that you'd get it like throughout your life? Did you ever have any like cough episodes, any episodes of like respiratory distress before you were initially diagnosed with it?
I can remember a few years ago having slight difficulty breathing. I attributed it to my gluttony because it came up most often after I'd have a heavy meal. So my little logical self said, well, I've got all that weight on my diaphragm now and it's difficult for my diet, and that's the cause of it. Next thing I know, around 2000 or 2001, I was actually going to walk-in clinics for a breathing exercise on a nebulizer. So I now have my own nebulizer at home. I've used it 3 times in the last year and 2 months. And as I mentioned a few months ago, with my GP's permission, I am no longer on blood pressure pills, and my blood pressure is much better than it should be for my age.
And what medication do you use inhaled?
The Symbicort, Ventolin, and then the one we talked about last time that you told me it was like a similar to Ventolin but in the different delivery form.
Like Spiriva, is it?
No, it was Bricanyl.
Oh, Bricanyl, okay.
Yeah.
And are you on Seabree?
I'm on the CB Breezehaler once every morning. So that's the 4 of them. I do have my own nebulizer, which means I always have salbutamol capsules around. But as I mentioned, I've only used it 3 times in the last year and a few months.
Mm-hmm. Just for the med students, we often try to have people use their meter dose inhaler, which is the puffer type of Ventolin, or Bricanyl, either one of those, rather than nebulized rescue medication, for a couple of reasons. One being that your nebulizer is at home, and pre-COVID, people, if you're not spending all of your day at home,
yes,
then you kind of want people to have a rescue inhaler that they are comfortable using
right
on the go.
Which one of the stuff I have would you recommend as a rescue?
So it's either the Ventolin or the Bricanyl.
Yeah, and I do have the little tube for the Ventolin too. I'm taking it properly. I don't take it.
Yeah. Yeah, so and usually we would recommend using the MDI inhalers, the Ventolin with the aero chamber,
Yes,
so that it just enables delivery into
I
the
understand.
lungs
And then of course the
better.
Breckenol. You say the Breckenol because I now carry one of the Breckenols in my man purse all the time since you introduced me to it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Bricanyl is it's very similar medication. It's a short-acting beta agonist,
Right.
but it's in the same device
Yes.
as Symbicort is.
Yeah.
So
Now, Symbicort
John is very familiar with how to use the Symbicort, so Bricanyl is a good choice there, and you don't need it with an aero chamber.
Exactly. And the Symbicort, of course, is a corticosteroid, is it not?
It does. It has a corticosteroid in it.
Yeah.
And a long-acting beta agonist. So a long-acting form of the Ventolin is in there.
Yes.
And the inhaled steroid.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent.
Mm-hmm. And since that first flare-up that you had, have you been hospitalized with your COPD?
Yes, both in the same month. I was hospitalized twice in September. Once the day I got home from the emergency ward.
Okay.
I got home. I was home for about 4 hours, and it was a big flare-up all over again. Gas trapping, wondering about this long whether or not to dial 911. And I always try to err on the side of caution, so I dialed 911, went in. It was so bad. It was so quick from getting back to my apartment. I thought there's a possibility of mold or something in the unit. I had the unit inspected for mold, and it wasn't. It was just me had reached that point where it was going to rear its ugly head.
John, do you mind me asking how often you take your medication? Is it as needed, or is it prophylactically?
No, I take the Ventolin twice a day. Or pardon me, the Symbicort twice a day. Take the Ventolin twice a day, or if I have need of the Ventolin, I'll take more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, while I was fighting COVID, I went through at least 50% more inhalers than I would normally.
That was going to be my question: is if you needed to modify your medication regimen to accommodate.
Most definitely, you bet. And it wasn't like a situation where it was a real bad shortness of breath. I just, as I say, I try to listen to my body, and it would reach a point where it's saying it might not be a bad idea to use an inhaler. And that just happened almost twice as much as it did normally during the time I was fighting the COVID. So I went through the 14 days. For my own peace of mind, I went another 4. So it took me 18 days from positive test result to symptoms all gone away.
John, you mind me asking about sort of your journey to quitting smoking? How was that?
Smoking is changed over time because of the tobacco companies. They finally developed the chemical combination that they wanted to develop new addicts and to make you keep going back to smoking. Sometimes I would try to quit smoking, and I'd be sitting watching TV. I would get up, drive to a convenience store, buy a package of cigarettes, come back, sit down, turn on the TV again, and light the cigarette before I realized what I was doing. That's how invasive the chemicals are into your mind and your body. When I quit smoking, I basically said, I'm not quitting smoking. Yeah, I'm just going to say I'm a smoker who at the moment is not smoking. And that's worked for years. I'm a smoker. I mean, even to this day, I can actually, in a dream or something, have a cigarette. And then I catch myself and push it away again. But I am a smoker that's decided not to smoke. And that's basically how I quit.
Did you use any pharmacological support to aid in your quit attempts?
With the smoking? No, I didn't. I used some on the edge pharmacological to fight the COPD. One of the things I started fairly early on in my fight was to put about the size of a grain of rice, a couple of drops of cannabis oil under my tongue twice a day. And because of my age, over time I got tired of the high. So I started looking for ways to mitigate the high, chew on black peppercorn or use a suppository instead of sublingually. And finally I settled on CBD oil. If I take the THC under my tongue and a couple of squeezes of CBD oil, it mitigates the high. And strangely enough, the CBD oil is helpful in other ways. I had some joint inflammation that sort of went away after I started adding the CBD to my routine. But no, I didn't use any smoking aids to quit.
And how long were you on the CBD?
I still am.
Yeah?
It's been about 3.5 years now for the cannabis oil. CBD, about 6 or 8 months. So I use both daily. And of course, the fasting, in my mind, that what I was chasing with the fasting was human growth hormone increase, stem cell increase, and autophagy. Because I'm trying to do something they say you can't do, is make all those bad things in my lungs better. And I think they are. Like I say, I feel that after I lost my weight, it was really strange. The more I exercised, the better I felt. So sometimes in the mornings, after a couple to 3 years of this, I get up to go to the kitchen for coffee in the morning. I'd actually break out dancing. I would dance down the hallway to the kitchen. I felt so good.
On your journey to managing your COPD, did you who was part of your life that actually helped you at home? Did you have a good support system at home?
Well, I have family all over the world. Not particularly. It's a very personal thing. It's not something you can buy. It's not a class you can take or a book you can read. The only thing you need to read is your body. And then you can pick up tools from videos and books and articles. But basically, I don't think a support group is effective in a situation like this. If someone needed somebody to, like back when I was smoking, then I had children who would go, "Ooh, yeah." Their comments and their encouragement to quit helped. But this time around, it was very, very personal. Everybody knew, in my immediate family, friends, and associates, they knew and they were supportive, but I didn't look for any crutches outside my own mind and body.
John, I wonder when you were, before your COVID experience, when you were doing your biking and you said you do your high intensity exercise, did you have any symptoms while you were exercising, like shortness of breath or anything from
Yes, when I started, most definitely. Especially when I started the whole program, 3 years and change ago, and also shortly after I bought the bike, I realized I wasn't going to go ride to Lethbridge. I determined, first of all, my body doesn't respond well to solid state cardio. So what I made up my mind was, rather than a stationary bike, I'd use my 10 speed or 12 speed to do high intensity interval training. Well, once again, I use a Tabata timer for that. Are you familiar with Tabata timers? I do 3 or 4 Tabatas and I just about fall off the bike when I started. Now I can get through the 8 that the program was designed for.
Do you use like Ventolin before you do that? Or,
I do not.
Or,
I do not. Mainly because that's my own in-house test of my condition, is to start to exert myself without any substances assisting me, and then do a read on my body to feel like, where I am that morning.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I take 2 cups of coffee every morning. Coffee, of course, is a bronchodilator as well. I have a glass or 2 of red wine every night. A chunk of dark chocolate every night, except for the month that I take off leading up to my week-long fast. So I don't drink any hard alcohol. I don't drink any fruit juices. I don't know if you know how much sugar there is in orange juice. It's just absolutely insane. So I don't drink any fruit juices. I just drink my own homemade lemonade, coffee, green tea, water, lots of water. I keep my water in copper containers like this. Very East Indian Pakistani. I talk to the water when I'm drinking it. I tell it to heal me. So I guess that's about it. As I say, that's about it. I don't take any meds to speak of except for the inhalers. And I think I showed this to Dr. Walker last time. These are my buddies. They go with me everywhere. My wrist cuff, blood pressure cuff, and my oximeter. They go with me everywhere. Because I can feel it when it happens, and I put on my oximeter, and sure enough, it tells me that I'm correct. My heart rate has gone above 100, or all sorts of crazy things that I can tell just from taking regular readings 2 or 3 times a day. Or if I feel something in my body, I'll do a test right away. But I can lean back, close my eyes, relax, and talk my body out of some of the things that happen. If I feel like I'm going to catch shortness of breath, I can stop it. Pursed lip breathing, some breathing exercises. I've used the Wim Hof breathing. I told Dr. Walker about this last time. Navy SEALs can hold their breath for about 2 minutes or more. The average person holds their breath between 30 and 45 seconds. The average for COPD patients is 15 to 24 seconds. I'm now up to 1 minute and 19 seconds. My goal, of course, is a full minute and a half.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I wanted to ask, so you mentioned that I'm not sure if you're still working or when you were first diagnosed with COPD, you were working at that time, but did you also create any changes with your work, while you were working? Because you did mention it was more of a sedentary type of job.
No, as I say, with I'm still working, in answer to your initial question. If I want to exercise, it's like 3 or 4 steps as opposed to getting in my truck and driving to a gym. I just decided it's better to have a gymnasium than a living room. So I've got barbells and adjustable bench, my bike on its stand. I've got an ab machine, a yoga mat, and exercise ball. And I just go nuts every time I feel like it.
Mr. Anderson, it sounds like you've done two of the hardest and most important things to improve your health, and that is significant and substantial weight loss that's been maintained and improvements in your nutrition,
Yes.
and combining that with your activity and exercise, which is amazing,
Yeah.
and then quitting smoking. And those three things, I think, for most people, let alone individuals who actually physiologically need to make these changes,
Right.
they're extremely difficult to do. So and this might be a stretch question, but are you involved in advocacy or awareness for COPD? Because I think that there's a lot of patients that would benefit from hearing your story and all of the changes that you've made with just your own intrinsic motivation.
I interact primarily with two groups. One, and they're both on Facebook. One regarding COPD and nutrition, and the other one is treating COPD with cannabis oil. Okay, the name of Phoenix, an oil called Phoenix Tears, and so that's a worldwide group treating COPD with cannabis oil. Some of them have taken another step, going even further. They're treating some cancers with cannabis oil. I didn't really have a choice. I had to find a way, or more than one way. I had to, because the respiratory resident at the foothills could not be right. I would not allow him to be right. So.
Just a quick question for you, John.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
You just following up with the cannabis oil thing, and it just seems like you are incorporating a lot of complementary and like alternative medicines into your lifestyle.
Yes.
With the cannabis oil, with the CBD oil,
Yes.
even something as high as like 20,000 international units of vitamin D. I guess I'm interested in how you got exposed to these alternative medicines, because they seem to be working for you. And I'm also interested in how your care providers have reacted when you've shared that information with them.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things you absolutely must have to do this are concerned, supportive physicians. My GP, Dr. Yep, and Dr. Walker have supported me all the way down the line and given me the incentive and the acknowledgement that I'm doing the right things that kept me going the right things and even speeding them up. As far as how I decided to do what I was going to do, thank heavens for Google. And also, I'm an information freak. My mother got me going, decades ago, because she was an incessant reader, and she made me become an incessant reader. I would sometimes have 6 or 8 books on the go at one time. I spent a lot of time on Google. I spent a lot of time looking for people in similar situations. A lot of times people go on online and they're looking for answers to a question, and they find an answer, but they don't compare themselves to the person that they've, it may not be suitable for them whatsoever. So they get sidetracked. I didn't have to do any trial and error, because once I mentally compared regimens, I see the correct one seemed to leap off the page at me, or leap off my monitor at me. And so I combined them all. I combined the exercise with the attitude. I wasn't a great sleeper prior to that, nor was I an excessive water drinker. And I don't go for this, have to drink this much water a day. I just make sure that I drink water when I'm thirsty. Body knows best. All of this has increased to the point where I do get very, very good sleep. 7 or 8 hours of real good sleep. every night. It has helped tremendously. But most of my decisions are based on research online of various conditions.
I had a question about your dramatic weight loss because I know you said you went from gluttony, you said, to like one meal a day, which is quite drastic. How did you find that process of cutting your food intake that much?
I used information that I gathered that proved to me that 3 meals a day isn't something that is necessary or real. It's a manufactured process. It was very, very easy for me to get to 1 meal a day. I'll tell you why. I started with skipping breakfast. If I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I'd eaten at 6 o'clock the previous day, and I get up at 8 o'clock the following morning, I've already fasted for 14 hours. And I just kept on creeping up on it. I'd have brunch at 1 or 2, and then I got to the point where I could skip it, and I'd have dinner 4:30 to 6:30, and I wouldn't eat again until 4:30 or 6:30 the following day. One of the things that will really, really surprise you is that the more you fast, the less hungry you feel. And 3 meals a day. My ancestors got up in the morning, grabbed their spear, and went out and hunted. If they didn't make a kill, they might pick some berries and seeds or whatever on the way back. But they didn't eat that day. But the next morning, they still had to have their strength to pick up that spear and go hunting again. So it's not as drastic as it sounds. It sounds really drastic. But it's a lot easier, a lot healthier, and more rewarding than you think.
John, I just wonder for the sources that you were looking at on the, like, during your Google searches, were you focusing on journal articles or scientific sources, or was it just a mix of personal stories and other real
I did a lot of evidentiary stuff as well as anecdotal. I had no problem with anecdotal data, as long as I can take a look at myself and take a look at the people involved and say, there's some level here. Whereas with someone else, they might bring up some information that's very strong and very, very interesting that I just put aside because I know I'm not that person. I'm not nowhere near that person. So as far as scientific is concerned, I don't know if I should get into that. Because most peer-reviewed papers end up taking the stance that whoever sponsored the study decides the stance should be. And that's just a fact of life.
I have lots of patients who come and ask me my thoughts on various things like, CBD oil or vitamins or diets and different things.
Right.
And I think my stance has always been that unless I have some level of knowledge that something is probably going to be dangerous or detrimental, and then I would share that.
Yes.
But otherwise, I don't hold myself out as an expert in alternative treatments.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think, the key thing is, not so much how you exercise or how you achieve a healthy diet or achieving your healthy weight.
Yeah.
As long as that's your goal, and then you figure out what works for you, because everybody's a little different in terms of their motivation and stuff. I don't shy away from telling people that I think something's going to potentially be harmful
Yes.
if it is.
Right.
You know, if I have that knowledge
Mhm.
to say that, you know what, I think that's a bad choice,
Right.
and this is why. But you know, I
Right.
think otherwise being judgmental and sort of
Yeah, I noticed that when I told you initially about the cannabis oil. You didn't bolt or immediately come out with an answer that was sitting right there, and you know, I could see you contemplating on how to put it, being
yeah, I don't
supportive.
support people smoking it.
Yeah,
Like
Oh,
I think you know,
exactly.
by and large, people with lung disease
They shouldn't be using
they
vapor
shouldn't
pens.
smoke anything.
That's right.
Because
Yeah,
we don't know that that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, if you've already got diminished lung function, it's probably not a great plan, particularly
Yeah.
because there are alternative delivery mechanisms that are
exactly.
safer.
Yeah, you bet.
But I don't think you ever came and said, you know, my plan is to start smoking cannabis.
Yeah, no, nor would I.
I might have had a different conversation.
Yeah, no. No, we get through that very simply. You are, as I said, you know, the things that are most important, a very, very concerned and supportive physician. Once you have a team on your side, like I do, it makes it a lot easier to get through those couple of levels of sacrifice. The lady was talking to me about getting to 1 meal a day, right? It wasn't paradise, but it was a lot easier than you would think, because there's a thin line. Is one side of it is you're going to eat breakfast, and then on the other side you're not. Right? It's not a lot to go through. And when you tell your physician that you're doing, this is what you're doing, this is what you're doing, and they say, you know, I think in your case that would be all right, right? And allow you to go on and do it to then get better. Rather, I know you have the other type of physician, like in regards to the diets. You know, somebody will have tremendous physical problems and then go away for 6 months, change their lifestyle, change their diet and everything, and go back to the physician, and they'll say, wow, you're in great shape, you're doing really well, what are you doing? And you tell them about the diet, and the guy says, well, I'm glad you're getting better. He said, but you're going to have to stop that dangerous diet. Doesn't make sense to me. If it was dangerous, my body would flick the thought off my shoulder like a dust mite. So.
Hey, John, do you recall when you started on daily medication for COPD?
Yes.
What was the experience like in terms of teaching, like getting some education around how to do the technique properly and why the need for daily medication? Do you feel like that was supported, or were you
Very
having
much
to
so.
search out your own
Very
information
much so.
there too?
And your assistants in your office or in the testing area up there, they're really great at showing you proper technique and testing you on it on a return visit. They'll say, okay, now how are you doing it? You know, that was really helpful as far as the techniques are concerned. The problem with me having an addictive personality, when I first got them, the biggest problem was overuse. You know, I didn't stop and think, well, I don't need to do that again. You know, my body said, you got a problem, grab the Symbicort. You got a problem, grab the Ventolin. And it was overuse. I had to get down to being able to comfortably stick to within your recommendations regarding frequency of use. So, that's about where I am.
When you go to the pharmacy, or I guess now they wouldn't so much, but at the start, were there other places that were offering to tell you how to use your medications correctly?
No.
Yeah, that's been the that's common, I think.
Yeah.
that, and I
And
tell
not-
that to family
Yeah.
doctors when I am, giving talks to
Yeah.
say,
the pharmacies
it's
don't.
not common.
Yeah, the pharmacies don't either. Most of them.
Yeah.
They do not teach techniques.
No.
At all. If
Yeah.
you're lucky, you've got your own doctor and his assistant, you and your test group. Other than that, well, of course, when I was hospitalized,
Yeah.
I was shown how to do it. But generally speaking, that type of information is not readily available out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'll often suggest to family doctors that when they're prescribing something for the first time,
Yes.
that they write on the prescription a request that the pharmacist review the technique.
Yes.
Because at least you're one step closer. And then when they come back with it,
Mm-hmm.
To make sure a person's doing it right, because even if I think the reason some doctors don't actively review the technique is because they're not confident in the technique.
Oh.
So, they have to have a resource to know what the correct technique is. But
Sure.
also, I always sort of just let people know that even if you don't know exactly how to do it right, you're going to recognize if someone's doing it really incorrectly,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it's often the mistakes people make are big mistakes, like
Yeah.
did not realize it's empty, or
Exactly. Yeah.
didn't take the cap off, like
Yeah.
stuff that
It happens.
looking
Yeah.
at, yeah.
And speaking of the pharmacies, by the way, the one thing I find about the pharmacies do is that they'll take a look at your prescription and come over and talk to you about how long have you been taking it, how have you had any change in effects and things along that line. General questions as opposed to technique of the paperwork. But they do question you about things and they ask. And with some, you find a good one. You have legitimate concern as well, rather than just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Anything else that, John, you think that these young, soon-to-be physicians should know?
Yes.
Uh-oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna just opened up 45 more minutes of conversation.
Yeah. Think out of the box. Think out of the box. I said this before, and in all your years of medical school, you will probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 hours on nutrition, if that. When I started my journey, I was doing 40, 50 hours a week of research on nutrition, on exercise, on my gut biome, everything I get my hands on. I would spend 48 to 50 hours a week studying. You're only going to get about 25 hours in nutrition in something that is so important to human health. Think outside the box. Go look for yourself. Find the time. I'm sure that medical school is like law school or like master's programs in psychology. You are buried. You're up to your knees already and going lower. But do find the time to find out things for yourself. Not what's presented in a lecture hall, not what's presented in a book. But open your mind and go chasing more knowledge. Take the time to do more of the things you know work for you, and a lot less time on the things that don't. That's not bad. I could have gone on and rant, but when I start ranting,
Does anybody else have any more questions for John?
I want to say thank you for sharing your story, and
You're
you're very inspirational,
Thank you.
and obviously very, very strong. So thank you very much for sharing with us.
Okay. Say hello to the puppy in the other room.
Two of them.
Oh,
and
you
then
do?
three
Oh,
little
my.
human people.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
All right. Thanks so much, John.
not at all. Thank you. I'll. I would like to see or find out later what kind of reactions there are to the results that you're going to share with them afterwards, to my tests. I think
For
that's
sure.
I like to keep that in my mind. It keeps me going. Okay. I'm going to
Yep.
click off now. Nice to have spend some time with everybody. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you so much.
Not at all. Goodbye now.